Welcome to This Week from Blue Mountain Broadcasting. I'm your host, Lynelle Ellis, the president of Blue Mountain Broadcasting Association, and I'm really glad that you've tuned in today. On our show today, I'm going to be interviewing Mike Denny. Mike is a naturalist, an instructor, an author, and the one who's been helping with our program, Secret Life of the Desert, which isn't edited yet, but we're all looking forward to seeing. He's going to be here with an update about that show and lots of stories about working on the production of Secret Life of the Desert, so can't wait for that. And then I have some important things to share with you during our station news segment too, so I hope you'll stay by. And we are going to begin now with our devotional thought. You know, we have just finished the Passover season and the celebration of the resurrection, and I thought today that we might actually continue thinking about that theme and about the last few days of Christ's time on earth, the time right after the resurrection, specifically his walk with the disciples on the Emmaus road, 2 disciples. What can we learn from that story? What does that story mean to us? What is Jesus asking of us today that we can learn through this story? So let's look at the story of the walk to the Emmaus from the book Messiah, once again, the book that we have been using over this Easter season. We'll use that to help us think about these things. Late in the afternoon on the day of the resurrection, 2 disciples were walking to Emmaus, a small town not too far from Jerusalem. They had come to the Passover and were greatly troubled by what had happened. Both had heard the news that Jesus' body was missing and the reports of the women who had seen angels and talked to Jesus. Now, as they headed home, they could talk of nothing else. Never had they been so confused and discouraged. As they walked, a stranger joined them. It was Jesus himself, but they were so absorbed in their depression that they didn't look at him closely. Jesus wanted so much to comfort them, to wipe away their tears and fill their hearts with joy, but first he was going to give them a lesson they would never forget. He asked, "What are these things you're talking about as you walk?" The 2 men stopped, looking very sad. The one named Cleopas answered, "You must be the only person in Jerusalem who doesn't know what's been happening." Starting with Moses and the beginning of Bible history, Jesus discussed all the scriptures that pointed to himself. He showed from the writings of the prophets that his death was the strongest evidence for their faith in him as the Messiah. As they walked, the sun had gone down and workers in the fields had gone home. When they arrived in Emmaus, Jesus acted as if he would be traveling on down the road. But the 2 disciples wanted to hear more. "Come in and stay with us," they urged. "Come on, the day is gone and evening has come. Stay with us." So Jesus did. The guest sat at the end of the table, and when the simple meal was ready, he put out his hands to bless it, exactly as Jesus had always done. The disciples stared in astonishment. They looked again and saw the prints of the nails in his hands. Both of them shouted, "It is Jesus!" They jumped up to throw themselves at his feet, but he had vanished. They said to each other, "What should we do now? Didn't our hearts burn like fire as he talked to us along the road and explained the scriptures?" The night was dark, but the sun of righteousness was shining on them. The world seemed new and fresh and full of promise. "Jesus is alive!" Over and over they repeated it. They had to tell the others the wonderful news of their walk to Emmaus. You know, we have something exciting to share as well. We've been walking with Jesus through our daily lives. we have experienced His love, His grace, His transformation in our lives. It is time to tell others. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Joining me now is Mike Denny, who's a naturalist, a teacher, and author, and helping us here at Blue Mountain Broadcasting with a show called Secret Life of the Desert. It's just great to have you here, Mike.
Thank you. It's a joy.
And we want to hear more about Secret Life of the Desert. In fact, there may be some watching who aren't that familiar with it. Could you sort of describe what this show is?
Well, it's a 13-part series, and it is going to be an amazing event because we have done something, Dan Biggs and I have done something that has never been done in the Pacific Northwest, and that is to go out and film all the deserts in the Northwest. And most people think of the Pacific Northwest as deep forests and the ocean. Well, there's so much more. 2/3 of each of Washington and Oregon are arid, and they are desert areas. So the definition of a desert is little rainfall, short on precipitation, and extremely cold in the winter. And we meet all those criteria here in the Pacific Northwest. So what we did was we figured out the areas we needed to be to get specific species of plants and animals and what time of year we needed to be there. And that's how we have worked our rotation around through these desert areas, is by the species that we were after.
And how long have you been filming for it?
Well, we've been filming since, early 2019. Mm-hmm. So we've been at it for 2 years.
Yes. And you've gone around the calendar twice.
Yeah.
And even when we've been in some challenging times with the pandemic, you've been able to get out and remote and continue on with the footage.
And because there's simply nobody out there. Mm-hmm. And so it was ironic. We would see a vehicle on the horizon and it would be like, oh, people. It was like we had no one around us. So it was truly a phenomenal experience doing it. I had been to most of these places through my life, and then I would think about what species did I see at this desert location or that desert location, and what time of year was that? So I have reams and reams of field notebooks I've taken, and so I would go back through my field notebooks and, oh yeah, that species is there in May and we need to be there. And so many, many events in the natural world have very short spans of time that they are present. And so you are either there or you're not.
Mm-hmm. And especially if something's blooming or it's a season when a bird is doing their mating calls or whatever. Yes.
Right. And so you have to be right there. So just a couple weeks ago, Dan and I went down to Malheur County, Oregon, and filmed sage grouse on their lek strutting. And if you're not there at the right time, you're never going to see it.
And that's a pretty rare bird.
Well, they're becoming more and more rare because of loss of habitat and a number of other issues. And their numbers are going down. And the sad thing is that they are a species that has to have sagebrush. And we have these huge wildfires in the west in the summer. And that's just destroying the habitat that they require. So they're called a sagebrush obligate, which means they're obligated to sagebrush. And without it, they don't exist.
So you put some work in to find those.
Yes,
and I'm sure a number of other creatures as well.
Yes.
But overall, you feel like the production has gone well? You're just about done filming, yes?
We are. We lack one species which we're going to nail down this coming week, and we'll get it. That's the western burrowing owl. But we have had amazing experiences, and we have come across species I did not expect to come across. So that makes it exciting. It's kind of like the perpetual Easter egg hunt. You just never know what's going to pop up out there. So we would be on the trail of a very specific species, and lo and behold, we would see 2 or 3 other species we hadn't expected. So they got included too. So,
of course, wouldn't leave them out.
Yeah.
So you said you've been to a lot of interesting places, many of them places you had been before in your life, but if you had to name like the top two, what are the top two places you visited while filming for this series?
Oh, by far, Malheur Refuge and the Pueblo Mountains and the Oregon Canyon Mountains. These are all down in southeast Oregon. Absolutely spectacular, amazing places. And then there was a species of animal that I wanted to see in the worst way. And we actually did not get to film it, but we saw it. And that was exciting. And it was called a kit fox. And it actually crossed the road in front of us down in southern Harney County, Oregon. And we got good looks at it. And both Dan and I yelled, "Kit fox, kit fox."
But there was no time to get the camera out.
No, and it was dark and it took off.
Yes.
But it was truly an amazing, tiny little fox. And how they were initially discovered in Oregon, they were not thought to be in Oregon, was some researchers were doing work on Neotoma, which is a bushy-tailed wood rat, and they collect everything they come across. And they love bright plastics and glass and wood, and they build these big, massive nests of all their belongings. I call them the garage sale rodent. But anyway, they collect all this stuff, and they found the skull of a kit fox in Oregon in one of those collections. And it was like, whoa, there's kit fox in Oregon. And then they started looking. And now they found that they are fairly regular in Oregon. But we actually got to see one.
So that would be one of the special things you've seen, but
yes.
not that we're going to see on the show.
No.
So what are some of the other creatures that would be sort of at the top of your list that you've captured on film?
Well, there is a tiny, tiny little insect, and it's called the sagebrush praying mantis. And they're very difficult to find, and they're hard to photograph, and they're just minute. And so Dan and I were wandering around in the foothills of the Pueblo Mountains, and lo and behold, if I didn't come across one of these tiny, they're less than 3/4 of an inch, and they're camouflaged to meet the color of a sagebush. And here he was. So
you're not just going to see them sitting there.
Here he was on the ground, and he walked across a leaf, and I picked him up, and it was like, whoa, sagebrush praying mantis. And so Dan got gorgeous photos of it, and it was like, who would expect to actually find it when you wanted to see it?
Yes.
And so insects are very difficult to do. And this thing just popped up. So that was wonderful.
That's an interesting thing about insects. They feel like they're just everywhere when they're pestering you, but when you're looking for a specific one,
yeah, good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah. The other interesting thing about insects is that they are very seasonal. And so if you're not there on the right week, you'll not see them. And it doesn't matter how hard you look. So this one was just coming into maturity. And so it had come out of its egg case and was just starting to get into maturity. So it had been out of maybe a couple weeks. But that was amazing. Yeah, that was exciting. And then last week we were down filming in Malheur County, Oregon, and we came across this stream that comes out of this mountain range in Malheur County, and Dan stuck the GoPro in the water and got gorgeous photos of 3 native fish that live in that tiny little stream. And the stream's clear as can be. And here were these 3 fish species, which we were not expecting. And so that was just a huge plus. That was fun. So I sent those photos off to a good friend of mine that's a ichthyologist, fishery biologist, and he identified them really quick and sent it back. And so we know exactly what they are. That's right.
That's great.
So.
What are some of the maybe more well-known or mammal creatures that our viewers might go, oh yes, I would love to see footage of that animal?
Well, we came across pronghorn antelope down in Oregon, and they are absolutely spectacular, and they are the epitome of arid desert areas. They are also a sagebrush obligate, and so they like to go periodically out into grasslands, and they graze out there and browse, but they love sagebrush. And so we saw those. We saw loads of wild horses.
Oh.
And I have a very different view of wild horses than most other people, and that is they're feral farm animals. And so they're not native here, and they are animals that have escaped and just continue to regenerate their populations out in the wild.
Yes.
But it's kind of interesting to see these wild horses running around in the sagebrush, and
yes.
you know, lots of Americans have this idea that they are they're a very romantic part of the Western United States.
Yes,
so
for sure. There's many, many paintings and horses just running across the
wide open spaces.
Yes. Yes.
But we saw a lot of wild horses. We saw a lot of deer, lots of mule deer.
Yes.
Dan got gorgeous photos of bighorn sheep, desert bighorn sheep.
That I'm looking forward to seeing.
They are beautiful.
I've seen them a few times in the wild, and we're always looking for them whenever we're traveling.
Yeah.
You know, see if we can spot them, because once in a while you can, you know, along the side of the road.
So the one thing that we hope to get out of this program, and that is the education about all these species and how they mesh together.
Yes.
And everything is dependent on something else. There are no islands in the natural world. And those places that we call islands actually are a tight community of animals and plants that have a relationship. And all of nature is about a relationship. And so the interesting thing is, when we're out there filming in the desert, you suddenly start to connect the dots and see that this plant is a requirement of this animal, and this animal feeds that bird.
Yes.
And you see how everything meshes. And so when we as humans go in and we start deciding that this animal doesn't deserve to live because it bothers my carrots, then
we're messing it up.
We're messing with things, and we're starting to unravel the fabric of life on this planet. And so part of our goal here is to educate people about the necessity of diversity. And animal and plant diversity is so important. We have filmed over 400 species of plants and animals in this 2 years. And
that's
so
incredible.
It is truly amazing. And we had so many amazing things happen while we were out there.
Well, now we cannot wait for this show to get edited so that we can share it with all of you. Mike, I'm just so glad you could take a few minutes to share with us your excitement and enthusiasm and some of the great things that you've seen, and it just makes us more excited about the show coming out soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you for watching. I'll be right back with Station News. Welcome back. It's time for Station News. We have a partnership weekend coming up April 16 and 17. You probably already know about that, and you've probably already marked your calendar. But just in case this is the first time you're hearing about it, or you have forgotten to mark your calendar, I want to remind you about it once again. This is an important time for Blue Mountain Television because we're celebrating our 31st anniversary. And in addition to that, it's also important because it's a chance for us to get together either in person or virtually and support Blue Mountain Broadcasting Association and the ministry that's going on here. It's a chance for you to connect with us and for you to share both the time with us, but also your gifts as we look for people who will partner with Blue Mountain Broadcasting Association in helping this ministry to grow and reach people in our community, but not just our community, because of course we're available in so many ways electronically that you can really receive what the programming that we're providing anywhere in the world. So a really, really important time for us. And we have some special guests who are going to be here for this partnership weekend, Michael and Lynn Harris. And they're going to be sharing on the theme, Healing Hope. And we want to let you know a little bit about the schedule as well, which you will see on your screen. We've got Friday for the very first program, Friday, April 16 at 7 p.m., which is our Vespers program. And Lynn Harris will be talking about grief to relief. And then we have on Sabbath, April 17, starting at 9:30 a.m., Sabbath School, and it'll be Blue Mountain Television sponsored Sabbath School event. And then at 11 a.m., the worship service with Michael Harris giving us the sermon, There's Nothing More Powerful Than a Made-Up Mind. And from 3 to 5 in the afternoon that day, this is exciting, we're inviting you to our house, to Blue Mountain Broadcasting Association's new home on Wallula Road at 1470 Wallula Avenue, Walla Walla. And that open house is from 3 to 5 in the afternoon. So looking forward to seeing you there in person. We'll have safety measures in place, of course, so be sure to bring your mask. And then at 6:30 p.m., we will again have some message to be shared with us by Lynn Harris, The Miracle of You, and Michael Harris in concert. So we'll be enjoying his music throughout the weekend as well, because he's an accomplished singer, and you're really going to enjoy hearing his music, I'm sure. So be sure to be planning now to be a part of our partnership weekend, either coming in person to the Village Seventh-day Adventist Church, again, safety measures in place, or you can join us virtually, because we will have the whole thing streaming and on the air for you so that you can watch that way as well. Now, speaking of our new facility, since I was talking about the open house there, we are also doing a little work bee there this next Sunday. So looking for volunteers for that if you would be interested. And also we've got a bunch of volunteers from our board who are coming to help with that on Sunday, starting at 7 a.m. And some other good news about the building. We were able to remove the steeple from the top, since it's no longer a church. It's now a building certainly being used for God's kingdom and for His glory in every way, but it's not a church building. So we have removed that steeple from the top of the building. So maybe it looks a little bit more like a television broadcasting facility. And here's another thing that I think you'll find really interesting and hopefully helpful to you. Isn't it nice to be able to get programs whenever you want to watch them? So it's great to be able to turn on Blue Mountain Television and have programs come on whenever they come on, but it's also really good and important to us oftentimes to be able to watch a particular program when it's convenient for us, not wait for whenever it comes on the schedule. And that's why I'm sure the whole industry of on-demand and streaming television is just growing and growing and growing. Well, we're helping you with that at Blue Mountain Broadcasting Association as well. If you go to our website now, there are a number of programs that you can watch on demand. So whenever you have time to watch a particular program that you enjoy, go there and watch it. And of course, for quite some time, we've had programs like this show, the This Week Show, Valley Viewpoint, Daily Bread, things that are really favorites of yours that we produce here locally. Those have been available on demand at our website. And if you haven't checked it out, you should. But now we have some additional programs available to you as well. And this is not an exhaustive list, but I'm going to share a few of them with you. Authentic, 5 Good Reasons, The Incredible Journey, It Is Written, Loma Linda University Church, New Perceptions, Sabbath School Study Hour, Table Talk, the Village Church at Worship, and the Walla Walla University Church. So you can see that some of the favorite programs that our viewers always give us feedback about that they really like are now available on demand at our website. You'll need to do a little scrolling on the page in order to find some of these programs, because they can't all just pop up on the front page. But do that, you'll find them, and you'll be able to watch them at your convenience and when you would really like to. So we're very excited to be able to offer this to you as a good service at this time. So I think that's all that I have to share with you for the things that are most recent and happening here, besides the news about Secret Life of the Desert that you just heard with the interview with Mike Denny. And again, I want to thank you for watching this show, and I particularly want to thank you for your prayers, for your interest in this ministry, and for the generosity that you show to it in keeping us on the air and on the live stream and happening so that you can watch, so that your neighbors can, so that other people in our community can tune in and have their hearts filled with hope as we share these messages that bring people closer to Christ, closer to God, and help them to understand who He is and the great plan that He has for us in our lives. So you're doing it. Thank you for your contribution. Thanks for watching today, and I plan to see you next time.